everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We are so excited that our pastor is back.
Yes.
He was back in the pulpit this past weekend and he brought a word for me. It was so good.
It was so good.
Hard work of happiness.
Yes.
And honestly, I feel like everyone would benefit from watching a message like this. And really, he dove deeper into this idea of happiness. And it's not something that we commonly talk about in church.
No.
We talk about joy a lot, but this idea of what happiness actually looks like and what being happy in a Christian sense looks like, feels like, sounds like. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
But he was back. They were on a little bit of, I guess, a vacation, some time off, because they were celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary.
That's so crazy. That's a long time.
It's
20
a long
years.
time. Congratulations to them
Yes.
both, because that's amazing and super incredible just to kind of see the love that they've built. And funny enough, Stephen and I celebrated our 4-year wedding anniversary.
That's also a long time.
Not quite as long as the 20 years, but getting up there. So we celebrated that this past week. So I'd love to know, like, put it in the chat, and I'd love to know, like, what's something that is worth celebrating right now going on?
I mean, this is gonna sound cliche, but my first official Love Week is coming up.
Yes.
So I'm like celebrating all the time leading up to Love Week, and then just like, this is Love Month for us.
It is definitely Love Month.
Yeah.
I feel like people in my family always say, oh, it's July, it's Love Month, it's not just Love Week. That's definitely something to celebrate. And we're having a worship night to celebrate it, to kick it off. So July 22nd, if you can come on out at 7 p.m. right here at our Mississauga campus, you're not gonna wanna miss it.
No.
It's a perfect way to celebrate just our church going out all across the city and serving and making a big impact, making a big difference to the local community, the global community. It's gonna be incredible.
It's gonna be so great.
So let's dive in. Let's talk about the sermon. So check out the sermon clip.
I don't need anybody else to tell me I'm blessed. If I have peace and contentment in my heart with God, I am blessed. I love Abby because it's hard to compliment her. Not because she's like insecure, it's the opposite. She's like, oh, I know. You look good today, Abby. Oh, I know. I'm like, is this good, Lord? Do I need to rein this in a little bit? It's like, no, I don't want her to need somebody else to tell her what she is. Shout, I know.
That was such a great clip.
Yes.
So good.
So good. I loved when Pastor was saying, also, I have notes everywhere right now.
That's okay.
Pastor
Great.
shared his notes on a receipt yesterday, so now I feel like sticky
Anything
notes,
goes.
anything goes.
Whiteboards, sticky notes, whatever. Phones.
But I really loved how Pastor was just saying, I don't need anyone else to say I'm blessed.
Yeah.
If I have peace and contentment in my heart with God, I am blessed. And then he goes on to say, whether you think I have a relationship with God or not, whether you like my pictures on Instagram or not, whether you like my ministry or not, I am blessed when I know that and I have contentment in that. And I think it's just this idea of validation isn't a bad thing, but the need for validation is. I will quote Matt White, our production director, on that. He was sharing that with us earlier, and I just thought that was so good. And Pastor was saying, like, let that be the cherry on top, not the cake or even the icing.
That's good. I feel like contentment is such a journey, right? Like the more that we can put Jesus first in our life and keep him at the center, I feel like that's where our contentment flows from. But it's not easy. And this is what Pastor was saying, that he even struggles with it when he's on an island feeling like he should be so content. There's still something inside of him, but it's this journey of like fighting through our feelings and understanding that God's purpose and calling is greater than our feelings. And to kind of push that aside and focus on how much God has blessed you and how much God is currently blessing you. And we're all gonna face moments where we don't feel good, right? Like things are always gonna happen that aren't gonna be good. But no matter what, like we get to choose how we handle it and what we focus on. And are we gonna focus on God, and are we gonna focus on the great things that he's done, or are we gonna let those things pull us down, I think. And I also loved, I know it wasn't in the clip, but he goes on to talk about how, like, do your patterns match your prayers? And this was really convicting for me, because I feel like I don't know, we can unpack it a little bit more, but I feel like, do your patterns match your prayers? Like, do your patterns match your prayers? Like, is what you are doing every single day, your habits, in line with what you're praying for? So if you're praying for more joy, like, are you sitting and comparing yourself to everybody on social media? That's probably not gonna line up. Like, we need to take that step and have the faith and belief that God is going to move, but we can't just do nothing in it. Like, we have a part to play. And I think once we can align our prayers with what we do every single day, what we say, because our words have power, it's gonna make a difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love that point. And I feel like for me, that's the preparation part that you were just speaking on. But even I think about my patterns when I receive the blessings, like in Psalm 126, when they're saying how God did great things for us and we were filled with joy. I'm praying for these things and God's blessing me with these things, but am I truly filled with joy? Am I truly worshiping Him and thanking Him for all that He's done for me? So I think that comes once you receive the blessing. Like, what does that pattern look like? Yeah.
I think also, like, kind of transforming our heart is something that he talked about. And he talked about, like, God's purposes over my desires. God's not going to give you your desire if it doesn't align with His purpose or his calling for you. And we're just going to get tired of banging our head against the wall if what we want isn't what God wants for us. And I think it takes a lot of maturity and a lot of spiritual maturity to, like, be like, God, I just want what you want for my life, and whatever that is and whatever your will is, like, help me want that and help me just be content with where I am. Because Pastor even talked about, like, there's been so many times where we've all kind of said, like, when I have this, I will feel like that. And it's not true. If we can't find happiness and right where we are, we aren't going to find happiness when we reach that destination. So
I think too, another point that kind of goes along with that, Pastor was saying, sowing with tears. And when I show up, good things happen.
Yes, I love that.
And my theme right now is calling over comfort. And I think that is sowing with tears, sometimes showing up even when it doesn't feel comfortable or when my feelings would say otherwise, like, why are you showing up? Just rest or sleep or whatever the case may be. And Pastor is saying when we do sow with tears, that means that our faith is in charge and not our feelings. So I really love that point.
I feel like too, like, there's been times where I've known friends have gone through really, really hard things, like devastating, tragic things, but then, like, they still show up to church. They still show up in that presence of God. They still show up to their e-group. They still pour out for their friends. And it's just, I don't know, it's just this idea of, like, God really honors when we do things for Him and when we show up for Him and we say, God, I'm not feeling great right now, but I'm being obedient to you. And I feel like there's so many miracles and blessings when we really can push back our, like, immediate response and just really believe and walk in what God wants for us. So I love that. I kind of want to make that, like, the mantra of my life, that good things happen when I show up. And sometimes, like, when we show up, it's not for us, it's for other people. It's like, I've shown up so that I can encourage somebody else and I can be that blessing for somebody else. So.
I was joking earlier that I feel like this could be an e-group tagline. Like, good things happen when I show up. Literally showing up to e-group. Good things happen.
Good things happen. So I just want to encourage you this week, or we both want to encourage you just to remember that, like, God has done great things for you. And, like, I know for us, like, we're going to be intentionally making lists of all the ways that we've seen God be good to us. And it can be simple things. It can be the breath in our lungs. It can be the health in our body, or whatever it is for you. I encourage you just to write it down and use that as, like, an anchor when things don't feel right or don't feel good, that you can look back on it and realize that, like, you know what, God, you have been good to me, and I can believe that you're going to be good to me in the future. So
I really, just kind of on that note, and this personal psalm that you could write for yourself, I was taking a look at Psalms 126 in the Passion Translation, and this is a thing, if you've been watching, I love looking at other translations right now. But I just loved how it said in verse 4, now, Lord, do it again. Restore us to our former glory. May streams of your refreshing flow over us until our dry hearts are drenched again. And I feel like that's happiness. Like, our dry hearts are drenched again. So when you're writing this personal psalm, when you're taking a look at all the things that God has done for you, or even believing that He's going to restore you to your former glory, just remember that that you can ask God for those things and make it really personal to you.
Love that. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great week.